But the WNBA All-Star Game ratings have come out, and all I could think of right off the bat was 4 little letters. F-A-F-O. F around and find out. You bleep around and find out what this league looks like without Caitlin Clark being involved in your biggest events.
They said the WNBA playoffs would be just fine without Caitlin Clark. Yeah, just like the Titanic was fine after hitting the iceberg. The second she was out, ratings didn't dip, they plummeted, straight off a cliff without a parachute. Fans scattered faster than free pizza in a college dorm. Now the league's looking around wondering who shut off the lights. If this is what fine looks like, I'd hate to see bad.
Liberty is playing the best style of basketball. They are playing the best basketball currently in the WNBA. And when they just had a nationally televised game on ESPN against the Chicago Sky, against Angel Reese, who was one of the biggest names in the WNBA, they had around 600,000 viewers, which is so low. You cannot make fans watch what they don't want to watch. But all we heard last year is if the fans were only watching the Indiana Fever, only watching games Caitlin Clark was playing in, then they weren't real fans and they didn't like basketball. And you just had so much media and WNBA personalities and even players just shunning the new fans.
The WNBA right now feels like somebody accidentally hit the demo mode button on professional basketball and forgot to turn it off. We're talking prime time, supposedly high-stakes playoff games that have all the electricity of beige paint drying in slow motion under fluorescent lights. Why? Because the league's star power has basically been vaporized in the span of a few weeks.
Fever Sky tickets dropped 71% on TickPick after Caitlin Clark injury. The get-in price for the Chicago Sky versus Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever game was $86. After Caitlin Clark's injury announcement is now down to $25. And you Angel Reese fangirls will still believe and think that Angel Reese is the reason why people are watching the WNBA. Since y'all want to make it about race, this white girl over here is the reason why fans are tuning in to watch the WNBA.
First, Caitlin Clark, the golden ticket, the walking headline, the reason half of America even remembered the WNBA existed, is gone. Not bad shooting night, gone, not load management, gone. Gone as in injured, out of the playoffs. The one player who could turn a random Tuesday into an event just got sidelined. And when she left, so did about 70% of the TV audience, roughly the same percentage of people who bail from a movie theater when the projector dies.
So check this out. The game on June 7th, the tickets were originally $86. Same seats, now $25. After her injury announcement. 71% drop in price. Over 71% drop in price. Because she's not going to be in the game.
Then Angel Reese, the drama queen of the court and the league's social media engagement engine, vanished too. Injured. Out. Gone. At this point it feels like WNBA stars made a pact just to see how unwatchable things could get if they all went on vacation at the same time.
You see, this is exactly what we were talking about. WNBA All-Star ratings are in for 2025 and it is down 40%. 40% from last year. That's bad. That is really bad. We already watched the ticket prices drop by more than 50% because Caitlin Clark was not playing. This is bad news for the WNBA.
And as if the basketball gods were personally roasting the WNBA, Sydney Colson. Gone. Ari McDonald. Gone. And now the cherry on this train wreck Sunday, Lexi Hull just went down too. And that one isn't even bad luck, that's referee-induced carnage. The officiating has been so questionable lately that in any other profession, HR would have already walked them out of the building with their stuff in a cardboard box. Hull's injury felt less like an accident and more like the league's version of a waiter dumping soup in your lap and then charging you for the refill.
If you consult the graph that I've just posted here, you'll see that nobody is watching the WNBA. That's the reason why the WNBA isn't making... Oh, sorry, I missed a few of them. So this is the reason why the WNBA isn't making any money, and they're not getting paid. It gets worse.
The injuries aren't just bad, they're catastrophic. Every game feels less like a competition and more like a survival reality show. Who can get out alive without a torn ligament? And the replacements? Let's just say they're not exactly moving the needle. You could air them side by side with a live feed of grass growing, and the ratings race would be too close to call. The TV audience didn't decline, it straight up evaporated. Empty seats. Empty arenas. Empty vibes. You can practically hear the basketball echo because the crowd noise is so thin. This is supposed to be sports entertainment, but the entertainment just got yanked out like a cheap battery from a dollar store remote. Right now, the WNBA is basically trying to sell front row tickets to a concert after firing the headliner and handing the mic to the sound guy humming into it.
Given Clark's unprecedented star power, her being confined to the Fever's Gamebridge Fieldhouse sidelines was always going to impact ratings, and she was actually there. It was her team. And the fans sent a clear message.
The officiating? Don't even get me started. Refs this season have been calling games like they skimmed the Wikipedia page for basketball 5 minutes before tip-off. Half the whistles, nobody, not the players, not the fans, not even the refs themselves, knows why. The other half, dangerous plays get waved off like they're pickup fouls. And then everyone acts shocked when athletes end up sidelined. At this point, the league might as well add ref-caused injuries to the official stat sheet, but here's the real issue. Without its top stars, the WNBA's biggest draw has turned into, come watch the backups try their best while we pray no one else's knee detonates. And that's not a product, that's a liability. This isn't just bad luck, it's systemic. When your entire business model leans so hard on a handful of stars that losing 1 or 2 sends ratings into freefall, you've built a house of cards. The WNBA milked Clark, Reese, and a few others for all they were worth, and the second they went down, the whole tent collapsed. Not slowly. Instantly. Like a circus with no poles and a whole lot of empty seats.
Person who really should get all the blame is Kathy Engelberg. Yes, this is Kathy Engelberg's doing. You know why? Because she has incompetent referee.
What's left right now are games that feel like glorified preseason scrimmages stretched thin across national broadcasts. Fans tune in expecting fireworks, but what they get is sparklers in a windstorm. The WNBA at this moment is basically Disneyland with Space Mountain shut down, Mickey Mouse calling in sick, and the Cho stand out of sugar. Brutal, and here's the thing, this isn't just a short-term hiccup. Injuries are part of sports, always have been. The difference is, when stars go down in the NBA, the league keeps rolling because there are layers, storylines, rivalries, and a deep bench of stars that keep the spotlight alive. The WNBA. They've been running on the fumes of 3 or 4 names. Take those away, and the whole machine grinds to a halt that if they don't adapt, and fast, what's waiting down the road isn't growth, it's nostalgia. Smaller crowds, fewer broadcasts, and endless, remember when Caitlin Clark was playing, highlight reels. And once you're in the business of selling memories instead of moments, no amount of hashtags is going to save you.
So lads, the All-Star ratings were confirmed, and I have to say, not ideal. Not ideal for the WNBA, and I'll take a look. So, the WNBA All-Star Game had 2.19 million viewers. Like, we can't forget last year peaked at over 4 million. This, in fact, is less viewership than an average Caitlin Clark game.
The WNBA doesn't need a minor tweak. It doesn't need patience. It needs a full-on identity reboot. Protect the stars. Develop more stars. Fix the officiating so players aren't limping off the court like extras in an action movie. And for the love of basketball, stop pretending that losing half your headline acts isn't a crisis, because here's the truth. Right now the league is basically a half-eaten sandwich sitting in the fridge. Technically still there, but nobody's excited about it. The product on the floor is running on fumes, not competitive juice, just lukewarm tap water poured into an old Gatorade bottle. With the marquee names out, games have slipped into this weird purgatory where you can't even tell if you're watching a playoff matchup or a Tuesday night scrimmage at the YMCA. The vibes say it all: fewer jerseys in the crowd, shorter lines at the concession stands, and fans bailing at halftime because the scoreboard is still stuck in the 40s. The energy is dipping so low you could hook it up to a flashlight and barely get 5 minutes of power, and that's the tragedy. Women's basketball finally has the talent and the audience, but the league is wasting both.
This should be a straight up wake up call. With the ticket prices dropping, and now you see the show, the ratings fell tremendously. And it was an awful game. So that large percent of people who did not watch, they probably had a better Saturday than everybody else. We just got to be real.
Then there's the replacement wave. The next in line athletes have stepped in, sure, but without that magnetism it feels like swapping out a blockbuster headliner for an understudy no one's ever Googled. You can't expect fans to bond with brand new faces in the middle of the postseason, especially when half of them don't even have signature plays or recognizable celebrations. The officiating only makes it worse. Every questionable whistle doesn't just kill momentum, it kills the mood. These aren't borderline calls, they're flow-wrecking interruptions that feel like somebody hit pause mid-play to check a text. The broadcasters can feel it too. You can hear the strain in their voices as they try to hype a basic mid-range jumper into something epic. No matter how many replays they roll, you can't manufacture buzz when the big personalities aren't there to sell it, and the marketing arm. Completely lost. Instead of pivoting to fresh narratives or building new rivalries, they're still recycling highlight reels of the missing stars. That's fine for nostalgia, but it does nothing to convince people to tune into the current product. It's clinging to ghosts while the present-day game keeps shrinking.
The three-point contest or the All-Star game, both of which she was planning to do because of a groin injury. This goes right to the Indiana Fever management and leadership as well. Better know whatever consequences the WNBA suffers from Caitlin Clark not being around, as will you.
On social platforms, engagement is dipping faster than an undercooked pancake. Where timelines used to be lit with debate threads, viral clips, and non-stop discourse, now it's just crickets. Sure, you'll get the occasional highlight, but even those flop compared to what they used to pull. Without the drama of rivalries or the charisma of certain stars, the conversation fades. And when the conversation dies, so does the casual fan's reason to care. Even the sponsors feel it. Brands that once bought into the rising league narrative are suddenly hesitating, asking themselves if it's smart to pump money into a product where star power can vanish overnight. It's not that they don't respect the game. It's that the mass appeal selling point, the juice, has been drained. The financial hit hasn't shown up on the balance sheets yet, but the ripple effects are coming, and they're going to land heavy. And the on-court product? Plenty of grit, sure, but almost no fireworks. Right now, it's grind ball, slow possessions, defensive slugfests, the kind of basketball that only hardcore purists can appreciate. The broader audience wants theatrics. They want alley-oops, logo threes, buzzer beaters, and crowd reactions that shake the camera. Instead, the current ratio of grind to excitement is completely upside down.
I'm not going to ignore, nor am I going to take my eyes off of what transpires with the WNBA over the next 2 weeks while Caitlin Clark is out with the quad strain.
The injury epidemic has to be addressed with urgency, not next season, not in a few years, now. That means overhauling training protocols, raising officiating standards, and rethinking scheduling demands. If top athletes keep going down, the league will never build momentum. It'll just live in permanent recovery mode. Fans can forgive a bad shooting night. They can't forgive a revolving door of stars in street clothes, the other elephant in the room. Zero contingency. Instead of pivoting commentary toward the players who are active and building them into larger-than-life figures, broadcasts feel stuck in a holding pattern, when so-and-so comes back. That's not a strategy, that's wishful thinking. This is exactly where other sports shift gears, market the next tier of stars, flood highlight reels, crank out interviews, and push fresh narratives until fans have new names to care about. Even the style of play is buckling under the weight of injuries. Teams are slowing games to a crawl, leaning on half-court sets, cautious ball movement, and safe mid-range jumpers. That might protect knees in the short term, but it's killing TV ratings in the long term. The league has traded adrenaline for insurance policies, and the product feels more like do no harm than put on a show.
It was also reported that the Indiana Fever television viewership is also down over 53%. Now, I know a lot of us were expecting some sort of dip since Caitlin Clark has been out with injury, but I don't think all of us were expecting the entire viewership of the entire WNBA to be down.
The atmosphere in arenas tells the whole story. Sections that used to erupt after big plays now settle for polite applause on routine layups. The roar of a playoff crowd has been replaced by scattered shouts, awkward silences, and the occasional wave attempt just to keep people awake. Without that electricity, the broadcasts feel dead on arrival. And when a broadcast feels flat, casual viewers bail almost instantly. If there's one lesson from this spiral, it's that no professional league can afford to pin its entire identity on a handful of names. That's not just risky, it's reckless. Instead of retreating into wait until next season mode, the WNBA should be flooding broadcasts with personality, doubling down on interactive fan experiences, and making every single game feel like a can't-miss event no matter who's on the floor. The real danger isn't just losing this year's audience, it's losing the habit. Once fans stop making WNBA games part of their routine, once tuning in slips from automatic to optional, it's exponentially harder to win them back. Right now, every flat, uninspired game isn't just a bad night. It's another brick in the wall of indifference. And that's the one wall no sports league can afford to build.
So lads, this is very, very concerning if you're the WNBA coming into the CBA. It is the worst possible thing that can happen, is the ratings coming out. It is the worst possible thing because you cannot work on the assumption anymore that the league's TV deal is going up. You cannot work on that assumption because the ratings are down over 50%. Fever games are down 53% with Clark out, and it's only national televised games.
And if the trend continues, the nightmare scenario isn't hypothetical, it's imminent. The postseason could end without anyone outside the hardcore bubble even realizing it happened. A championship that barely registers in the public consciousness isn't just disappointing. It's devastating, because here's the truth, leagues aren't defined by their diehards. They're defined by their ability to capture casuals, to make the occasional fan feel like they can't miss the moment. Lose that, and you don't just lose ratings. You lose relevance. The WNBA's survival in moments like this hinges on reinvention. Not next year. Not after a dozen committees finish their studies. Now. Urgently. Boldly. With changes that grab attention and prove the league is still capable of commanding.